Are you serious? Are you serious? Well, I am very seriously serious. Live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Israel Hall's with me to produce the broadcast. We're in a hotel room, but Israel is amazing how he can set everything up and still be ready to roll. Are you serious? Are you going to? Oh, yeah, you have the screen over there, don't you? Okay, awesome. Guys, let me say something. Put a shout out right now, noblegoldinvestment.com. That's www.noblegoldinvestment.com. I don't know what to tell you. Stock market was up today. Tomorrow it'll probably be down. Interest rates are still going up, and hyperinflation still going up, and inconsistencies in the food supply chains. Everything else is out of whack. Everything's out of disorder. What the stock market's doing, up, down, up, down. What does that matter? What matters is what happened to about 30% of your 401k, and where does it go from here? Tomorrow morning, pick up the phone, call Colin Plume at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347, and tell him that Pastor Paul Begley sent you there. You want to roll over that 401k or some of it into a gold IRA. And they're giving away a gold coin, 1/10 of an ounce, pure gold. He'll give it to you for free as a blessing for protecting your own financial needs. All right, I'm Pastor Paul Begley, and it's been an unbelievable week, to be quite honest with you. I've been, a little bit frazzled, to be honest, because when you make a trip to Branson, Missouri, we did 2 television shows in Branson, and I preached 3 sermons in Branson. All of that was also recorded for television and for online broadcasting through the Jim Bakker Show, through PTL Network. You'll be able to see our shows next week. I believe it's going to be Thursday and Friday. If you watch the Jim Bakker Show next Thursday and Friday, you'll be able to see both shows that I was on. And actually, Israel Hall was on the second show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Israel was on the second show, and he plays sax for me while I'm singing one of my songs for my brand new album. Plus, Israel does a solo on the sax. Jim Bakker says, "Can you do a solo?" And he did an amazing rendition of Amazing Grace. Izzy, what'd you think? You get there and all of a sudden you're on television. You're doing, it's huge stage, huge.
That's amazing. The biggest, pretty much the biggest Christian show in the world, right?
It is. 1.6 billion homes. The households potential, they average about 27 million people watch each show. 27 million. I don't know. CNN on a good day gets 2 million. I need people to understand that. And yet you won't hear anybody talk about the power of Christian television, especially the Jim Bakker Show, reaching numbers that no other Christian show reaches anywhere even close. And we were there on the air with him and Israel. We did something without any rehearsal. I sang Everybody Talks to God, and Israel played saxophone with me, no rehearsal, with the soundtrack behind us, and they said it sounded beautiful. I don't know, Israel, what do you think?
Man, it was incredible, just the whole experience, and he asked us to come back.
Yes.
He said you're his favorite preacher.
He said, how many times did he say it?
3 times.
That's
confirmation.
How do you say that someone's your favorite preacher? As a matter of fact, he tells his staff that, everybody. Do you know, you do know Jim's been preaching 61 years and he's met from Billy Graham to, come on. How am I his favorite preacher? But I think he said he just loves, he said he told me, he said when he's at home sometimes when he's really feeling down, he just turns on Paul Begley preaching. I'm still shocked over all that. I really am. Okay, so anyway, let's get down to business here because we've got a lot to talk about here. And I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a reason. We're done with the Branson, Missouri revival, and it was. The services, oh, by the way, I'm just telling you about the television show. The services were unbelievable. The worship, the praise and worship was insane. It was just, and the altar calls was just, the Lord just took over. We just had an unbelievable time. It was a great revival. It really, really was. That's all I can say. And I'm glad you'll be able to see it also online at the Jim Bakker network, or PTL network, I think it is. Anyway, we'll tell you more about that and where the links are and all that, okay? Now, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a reason. I'm going to be interviewing Stephen Boyles for television in his home. Israel will be setting all it up for us so we can do a great interview. And Stephen, of course, is the man that made the new Apocalypse Watch. He's the creator of the software. Heidi was given the vision to set this up, and then he did all the work. Now we had just rolled over from the old to a new one. He was in the process of switching it over, as you guys know, when he got sick with COVID and went in, and then all of a sudden we ended up on the ventilator in a coma, of which he stayed for 4.5 months. And during that time, he died, and he went to heaven. And his experience in heaven is so incredible that I'm going to record this. We're going to interview him tomorrow in his home and make this available for you folks at the new Apocalypse Watch, as well as other locations and places. It will be incredible for you to see. So that's what we're doing tomorrow here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then I'm headed back to Indiana, and we'll just keep on rolling, okay? Tonight, Mike from around the world is going to join us. And governments are collapsing. That's really the word I want to say. I mean, Israel's prime minister, Naftali Bennett, was forced to resign, and then they dissolved the Knesset, and now Yair Lapid is the new prime minister of Israel, and he has no checks and balances, really. He could sign it. He could do a two-state solution. He could sign a new covenant. He could do a lot of stuff right now without any checks and balances, or not much, I should say. And he's already got on a plane and went and seen Emmanuel Macron in France, and they've already, I mean, it went to another level. Am I supposed to hit something here, Israel?
No, I haven't.
You got on? Okay, you're working on it.
No, that's you.
Yeah, it's me.
You did that with the cursor.
What'd I do?
I don't know. Just moved your cursor. That's fine.
Oh, that's me.
You're good.
Okay. But the Israel's government has collapsed, and now Bojo has lost his mojo. He's gone. The United Kingdom's prime minister forced to resign today, as 60 some of his cabinet members, even underlings, resigned. His government completely collapsing, so he had to pick up the phone. He called the Queen and said, I've got to step down. Nobody wants to work with me. The government's got to run. I'm out. They'll have to they're going to have to put in a new government. They have to have a new election. They're going to have to put in a new prime minister. Israel's got to put in a new prime minister. There's chaos in different nations where they're collapsing, or there is total chaos. Nicaragua, just throwing all these nonprofit organizations out, Christian nonprofit organization, including Mother Teresa's nuns. Why would you them? What is going on? This is happening in other. Colombia just overtaken in their election by a cartel group. Cartels are now going to run the government in Colombia. We already know what Venezuela's got going on with that chaos, and now the United Nations has put unbelievable constraints on the farmers. It's unbelievable. Check this out. Missionaries of charity nuns kicked out of Nicaragua. What do you got the temp on?
What do you need? You down?
No. Is it like 68? You probably freeze her. Can you put it on like 70? Okay. Okay, Israel, let me see that. So it says here, missionaries. Oh man, is that small? Can I make this a bigger on the screen? Oh wait. Can I?
Top green. The green button right there.
Green button. All Begley technology. All right, there we go. The Missionaries of Charity congregation has been expelled from Nicaragua. Why? the latest in a series of attacks of the Catholic Church and its ministries, thank you, from the Central American country, increasingly repressive government. The Order of Sisters, founded by Mother Teresa, known popularly, we all know who she was, operated a home for abandoned adolescents, a home for the elderly, and a nursery for low-income families in Nicaragua. Several Catholic leaders reported and tweeted news of the expulsion. Nicaraguan media reported the sisters' exit as part of a crackdown on non-governmental organizations by the ruling Sandinistas. This is Daniel Ortega's group, okay? So why would you kick out, I mean, what in the world are we doing here? Why would you kick Mother Teresa's people out? This is insane. This is absolutely outrageous. But this is the kind of thing that's happening as we're dealing right now with governments collapsing, or I should say, the status quo order of the world is changing. And it's part of it is, and Heidi said, ask Mike from around the world tonight, who's creating the United Kingdom Spring, the British Spring? She thinks this is already, somebody's orchestrating it. I'm thinking that it's not just the collapsing of these stable governments like the UK and Israel, which both of which Russia has been staring down at. Russia has been pointing out. Matter of fact, we've got some information came to us yesterday. Israel, you know that the Russians kicked the Jewish agency out of the country. They're shutting them down. How do you just do that? So what is?
The chief rabbi of Moscow had to flee, and he's no longer now the chief rabbi.
Unbelievable.
They're cracking down on Jews in Russia.
Yeah, this is like a replay of 1938, 1939. Hitler did the exact same thing. Hitler invaded Austria. Then he started to prepare for his next country he was going to take. Meanwhile, he started shutting down Jews, wouldn't let Jews leave the country, started taking their wealth, started shutting down their capabilities, taking their businesses. I mean, this was all in the process. I'm seeing the same thing kind of play out in Russia. It's kind of weird. You wonder, is this the same playbook? Or is this just taking a page out of the Nazi playbook? But it's look, so if you start talking about nations that are collapsing, you got to say Ukraine's collapsing. And then Norway and Sweden just entered into Norway. They're being threatened by Russia. And we already know what China's doing in the South Pacific. And then we know what Iran is capable of. Yet for some reason, President Joe Biden is hell-bent on putting together some kind of Iranian nuke deal, which it doesn't even make sense. Who cares, Joe? Gas is $5 a gallon in America. Who cares? Why is this such a big issue? Why is this such a big priority to you that well, Iran's got to have a nuke deal? Iran's going to do what Iran wants to do. We don't need to sign anything with them. We just need to contain them, especially the fact that they're threatening Israel every time you turn around. I mean, I'm just, folks, I want to welcome all of you. 3,000 of you are here with us right now. Mike Around the World is going to join us tonight. This is going to be a great program. Nations, governments, actually, institutions are falling apart. And in America, it's a war, a battle, if I should say, legally and politically and spiritually and economically. There are forces at work here to try to tear down and destroy freedom and liberty and Christianity and God in this nation. We're in a battle on that as well. And of course, as America goes, so goes the world. So this is a very important time, and it's very, very disturbing, Izzy, to say the least. Very disturbing. Yeah. Do you have that article about Russia kicking out those agencies?
Let me get it real quick, just a second.
And I'm going to show you this, guys, and then we're going to get a song here. I want to show you this. By the way, I'm not even done. Listen to this. I'm telling you about all the governments collapsing. You know about the food shortages. Wait till you hear what they're doing to the farmers in Europe. And then we got a huge plasma storm, huge geomagnetic storm hitting the earth right now. And with radiation and everything. But let me go first to this. Russia orders the Jewish agency to stop all operations in the country. Now this is look at this. This is the Jerusalem Post. This was yesterday. It says here that the Russian government has ordered the Jewish agency to cease all operations inside the country. The order was given in a letter received from the Russian Justice Ministry. Earlier the week, officials in the Jewish agency confirmed that the letter was received. They would not comment, however, on the response that is currently under consideration in the organization's offices in Jerusalem in consultation with the Foreign Ministry and the Prime Minister's office. And as part of the work of the Jewish agency's delegation in Russia, we are occasionally required to make certain adjustments as required by authorities, the agency said in a response to the query from the Post. But the contacts with the authorities take place continuously, with the aim of continuing our activities in accordance with the rules set by the competent bodies. Even nowadays, such a dialogue takes place. So why would you all of a sudden start throwing Jewish agencies out? Why do that? Okay. To me, it's just very interesting that we're seeing, is this part of the, you have to start asking, is this Agenda 2030? When you look at, oh, by the way, did Georgia Guidestones blows up? What? Or did lightning strike it? Or was it a false flag to blame conservative Christians? I've seen already NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, all said that this could have been done by conspiracy theorists, conservative conspiracy theorists. They just name people. They just give people labels. They gave me that label in 2011. The Huffington Puffington Post called me the conservative conspiracy theorist, the voice of the right. That was 11 years ago, I mean, I didn't blow up the Georgia Guidestones, although kind of glad it got blown up. I mean, I didn't do it.
CNN needs to face the music.
CNN needs to face the music?
Yeah, they need to start a band called Huey Lewis and the Fake News.
Huey Lewis and the Fake News, yes. Well, they've got a lot of fake reporters going on, and they're not the only one. A lot of the lamestream fake news media, as we've heard Rush Limbaugh call it forever, and the fact that they didn't even investigate how this Georgia Guidestone pillar was blown up, and you just can't go on television, all major newspapers, and decide it was people that you've labeled conservative conspiracy theorists. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. All you got to do is go back and check my record. Go back and check my videos that are on YouTube. And the stuff I talked about 8 years ago has happened. Yep. I mean, time after time after time after time. Okay? Yet nobody ever goes back and fact checks and says, oh, yeah, Begley was right on that. He was right on that. And so was, this person was right on that. They keep these titles. They never go back and recorrect it. We're right 99, or I'm going to say, I'll give myself some leeway. We're right 90% of the time. Would you, okay?
90% of statistics are made up.
Yeah, they make stuff up. Anyway, it's insane what we're going to do. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break right now, and we're going to get a song. Look, the sun is about ready to blow sky high. We're being hit with these CMEs, and we're getting hit with plasma storm, and they just cranked up CERN, and they're jumping on everybody's cases trying to grow food. I mean, shelter me, Lord. Just shelter me from all of this. Read Psalms 91. Are you serious? Are you serious?
Hold on.
Wait, hang on.
Hold on.
Hang on. Wait. Hold on. Help me hold on, Lord. Okay. I'm on audio only. Okay. We're having technical difficulties, folks. Hang on a second. The camera was there for a second, and then it went to audio only. Looks like your camera was unplugged. Plug it back in or select a different camera. Hang on, folks. We're technical difficulties, but at least they can still hear me. We will get this song for you in a little bit here. Mike from the World's going to join us tonight, and it's going to be interesting to hear what he's got to say about the collapsing of governments, CERN. You know, this was announced, and they did it on July 5th. They cranked it up. I mean, they cranked it up all the way. And it's incredible to me. Hey, what settings? It's incredible to me that this would happen, that we would have CERN cranked up both beams. They cranked up both beams completely, and they're running them at the.
They're messing with you.
Yeah, they're messing with me. They
I can't even hear you now. You're no audio.
You think they don't like this where it says government's collapsing?
Yep.
Can I go in and change that title? It might make a difference here.
See,
I got to do it over here on
everything is
YouTube,
here.
though.
See, look at this. Everything is here. Everything is working.
Look, I'm gonna change. Here, let me take that. Let me make an adjustment here, folks. They may not like my title, and we're being attacked. Mayday! Mayday! We're under attack! Mayday! Mayday!
I think you're good now.
The New World Order. New World Order. You think we're back? Extra, extra, read all about it. You want me to change the title or not? Am I back?
I think you're good.
Okay. Okay.
Your other browser. Go back to the left tab.
Okay.
Weird.
Wow.
Remember when Russia did that when we started talking about
Yeah.
right before the war?
Yeah, right before the war, and man, they went nuts on us, and I don't know. We're back. We will get that song when we're ready, but don't forget this: that Mike from the World is going to join us tonight. We got to talk to him. Governments are collapsing. Chaos. Nicaragua throwing out all these nonprofits, and they're not the only one. Heidi was telling me there's other countries that are doing it, and including the United States are shutting down certain nonprofit organizations that are doing good Christian humanity work. Okay, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And while that's going on, we have a food shortage that's outrageous. And they're getting ready to put this new EPA regulations on the truck drivers in California. Did you hear this, Israel? 70,000 truck drivers, independent truck drivers, are not going to be able to afford to operate. And they're just going to have to shut down. You talk about a shortage of food distribution. California, folks, is where 60% of our vegetables and fruit comes from. You can't just go shutting off the independent truck drivers that have to drive across the country. You can't put such strenuous EPA regulations on the diesel that they can't afford to drive. And then here's what's happening right now in the Netherlands, the Danish. They can't. The farmers are protesting as they put new EPA regulations on their way to grow food. Look at this. Police fire on the Dutch farmers. Farmers have blocked the supermarkets, the distribution centers, and roads in response to the government plans to cut the nitrogen emissions. Okay? Now, Dutch police fired shots at the tractor riding farmers who were protesting against the plans to cut nitrogen emissions on Tuesday evening in northern Netherlands. Police said they were responding to the threatening situation when the farmers who were attempting to push past a blockade to get into the highway in the province of Friesland started to drive their tractors into the officers and their vehicles, is what they're reporting. Okay, according to the Friesland police, of course, their shots hit a tractor. No one was injured, but 3 suspects were arrested. And so why would you cut the emissions? What they're saying is when you reduce the emissions of nitrogen oxide and ammonia, which is produced by livestock, by the year 2030, that means you have to could reach 70% in some areas.
It's a cult.
A what?
This is a cult. It's a Gaia cult.
A Gaia cult?
Yeah. Climate people.
Yeah, it's the green religion. I mean, I'm writing about it in my new book coming out this fall, that it's this green religion is absolutely insane. It's Agenda 2030. It is a cult. And now by changing this emissions, it's going to mean they're going to lose 70% of the livestock in that country. Can you understand what that means? 70% of the meat is going to go away. And guess what? Now they're protesting in Poland. They're protesting in some of the other parts of the world. Yeah, audio's still working. And we got the New World Order messing with me tonight. They're cutting everything. Every time you bring something up about what's going on, there's anger. The anger is this. The Green New Deal is to stop you from traveling, to stop you from flying, to stop you from driving, to stop you from eating meat, to stop you from going to church, to stop you from praying to God, even to stop you from singing out loud. Do you remember all this? To stop you from believing in your political systems and elections, to stop you from communicating, to stop freedom of speech. I mean, I'm just trying to stop women from getting formula for their babies, for God's sake. I mean, what in the world's going on here, folks? What in the world is going on here? Is this being orchestrated? I mean, or am I just a conspiracy theorist? Is that what we're going to say again? Klaus Schwab, he said, I watched him at the World Economic Forum. I watched what he said. He said that the nations of the world are going to have major food shortages, lack of meat, lack of food. And he said, it's going to hurt. It's going to get bad, but that's okay. It's the only way to save the planet. Are you serious? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it, Heidi? Okay. Okay, did I say his name? I'm sorry. I can't say people's names, but he did quote that. And so it's just insane to me. Israel, what do you think? I mean, it's crazy what's going on, right?
Mad news. But I think I got your song now.
Oh, let's have that right now. I'm having a migraine. I think I need Jesus to save me and help me and save us all right now. Yeah, I hear it.
The earth can shake, the sky come down, the mountains all fall to the ground. But I will fear none of those things. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Dark waters rise, the thunder pounds, the wheels of war are going round, and all the walls are crumbling. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Hide me underneath your wings. Hide me deep inside your heart. In your refuge, cover me. The world can shake, but Lord, I'm making you my hiding place. The wind will blow, the rain can pour, the deluge break, the tempest roars. But in that storm, my spirit sings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. day you call for me. Someday when time no more shall be, and I say, death, where is your sting? Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Hide me underneath your wings. Hide me deep inside your heart. In your refuge, cover me. The world can shake, but Lord, I'm making you my hiding place. Now on that day, you call for me. Someday when time no more shall be, well, I say, death, where is your sting? Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings.
Wow. I mean, that's the time we're in, folks. That's the time we're in. I'm Pastor Paul Begley. Mike from around the world is going to join us tonight. It's good to see over 4,400 of you with us already. I want you to let people know that Mike's going to join us. For some reason, I should have a clock to know what time it is. Okay. Yeah, matter of fact, Mike's going to join us here in like what? 4 minutes? Are you serious? Mike from around the world in 4 minutes? What? Yeah, so he'll be joining us tonight. We're live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, here at the in the city of Tulsa, where it was 102 degrees, and they were under an excessive heat advisory. But I think this isn't the only city in America that's having this kind of heat. We have to really be concerned about severe storms. Let me tell you, speaking about severe storms, we have a plasma storm hitting the earth right now. A plasma storm is hitting the earth right now. It is weakening the magnetosphere, and it's also creating a solar geomagnetic storm that's affecting the earth. So we're having some serious, and we got real high, very high radiation and UV rays. That's really, really dangerous, okay? So all of these things is because the sun. Is it because of Planet X, the effects of it? I mean, I keep asking that question. And Mike keeps confirming it is, basically. The sun's going to continue to go insane. It's going to continue to blow sky high, basically, not blow up, but be so volatile that it's going to continue to create so much havoc that we're going to have these extreme weather conditions. They're going to get worse and worse. I mean, think about the water. It's heating up. The oceans are getting so hot. It's unreal. It's just unbelievable what we're seeing. It's going to create these mega storms. I just saw earlier in the week they were afraid there's going to be like a monsoon of rain, and they're expecting it to hit California. A monsoon type rainfall with so much rain it could bring just unbelievable flooding and just craziness. So, and then, oh, by the way, on July 1st, they just cranked up CERN. Yep, both beams on high, the highest high settings, okay, the highest they've ever done. And here's the thing. and they're finding new particles. Heidi, you're telling me, what was the name of those? A pentaquart and two tetraquart quarks. A pentaquarks and two tetraquarts. Quarks. Am I saying it wrong? Maybe my... I'm close enough. Okay, I'm so sorry. Well, Mike will probably help us on that. But why in the world would you do this? I mean, that's my question. Why would you do this? But it's crazy. And then the governments are starting to collapse. Different things are starting to happen. We're witnessing a transformation on the planet. I have to start asking myself, are we getting ready to start the tribulation period?
Just because you found a few subatomic particles?
Yes, because we found a few subatomic particles. I'm not tripping over the tribulation, but I'm just saying. You say, Begley, wait a minute, you can't say the tribulation's starting because we're still here. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that 26 of the 18, according to.
Those particles have been there all along.
We just found them.
But they've been
But
there
Heidi,
all along.
I know they've been there, but we didn't know it until we took CERN. Has CERN opened a veil? And Heidi, you even said to me earlier today, is something been released on the planet? Is there something been released? I'm like, well, I mean, are you serious? The Bible says that there's going to be all kinds of demons released in the last days. So governments are collapsing. Food is running out. But here's the thing about it. Mike from the World told us 3 years ago that we were going to have food shortages. He told us the shelves would go empty. He said that meat would disappear and that the number one protein source would be Spam. Green eggs and Spam. Are you serious? Green eggs and Spam. Mike from around the world, can you help us? Can you save us? And guess what? This computer right here, low battery, near death. Beep, 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 beep. Warning, warning, radiation warning, warning, new world order. New world order. It's time for the new world order. Yeah, I mean, it's really getting crazy. But every time you turn around, there's something else going on.
Is it charging now?
I'm assuming. I can't see. There was this flashing came on there that says, yeah, it's okay. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting how we're living in these last days. Am I right that Mike from the World is due right now? He's like 2 minutes late. Is he okay out there, you think? Am I wrong? It is 10:17, right, in the East Coast? Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of Mike from the World, there's no cord.
Let's just answer it and then.
Okay. Hang on. Is this Mike from around the world?
Pastor Paul, having issues?
Yeah. Can you tell?
Possibly.
What?
Well, I'm having a few myself here, but I got them squared away.
Well, we're going to get you. 1 second here, Michael. We're going to get you up here. Let's see. Are you there now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
sound
having
okay?
issues. Can you tell? I mean, I don't know. It's because I'm living on Tulsa time. I don't know if that's it or what, but
Who knows? Well, we're having a sun problem, so that could be.
yeah,
It might be some of it. Actually, it's almost a delayed type of a storm. It started to stream in, but there's some bulky pulses in the
Wow.
some of the solar winds. So we'll find out what that does. It's already ate away part of the ozone. 2022, last one we had was 2020. One before that was 2011. So the northern hemisphere is going to feel some effects from this.
So there's also what they're calling a plasma storm.
Yeah, that's basically what that is. That's basically
what
what
that
that is. When you have those solar winds are very hot. Without the atmosphere, it burn us up and it vaporize everything. So and we're polarized perfectly with what's streaming in. They were worried, Pastor Paul. They were worried that we were not going to be polarized right? It was about a week ago, and that if that would have happened with this discharge, right, that would have been goodbye to the northern hemisphere.
Wow. Would have been
If we had
goodbye.
the
Wait, to the
That's right,
northern
that would have
hemisphere.
been
Wait.
goodbye. So that introduces an issue. People talk about a physical pole flip, right?
Yes.
Guess what? If we have a magnetic pole flip, we're going to have the opposite polarity. And if we have another one of these storms like we're having right now, we couldn't survive. Half the world probably would die
Because of this. Because when you
because of
say polarity,
polarity.
you're meaning a pole shift, a magnetic pole shift.
If we had a magnetic pole shift, if
Yeah.
the Earth stayed the same, just as it is right now, but magnetically, the poles shifted, right? Which means they changed polarity. This solar storm would have destroyed the entire northern hemisphere.
So when you say northern hemisphere, you're talking all of North America,
All of us, because
all
because
of
we're
Europe.
rotating. Anybody under that influence of that rotation is going to be gone, because nothing will stop the radiation from hitting the surface of the Earth and penetrating at least a mile into the soils. See how dangerous this is? So we're polarized perfectly to reflect or to absorb solar winds and reflect the rest. If we Now, the poles will shift magnetically. That's not an if. That's a fact. They will shift magnetically. When this happens, one of those scriptures in the Bible, when that angel poured his vial into the sun,
Yep.
and men were scorched by reason of great heat, that's going to be an issue. People are not going to be outside during that time. But thank God that's in the vials of wrath, or bowls of wrath, not the other portions.
Right. That's during the time of the wrath of God when
That's
he
right.
pours out the wrath. And it's not in the
The t-
time of we're in now, which is leading up to the tribulation period. I mean, I was kind of joking around a little bit here this morning or this evening that, hey, are we entering into the tribulation period? Because the sun is hot and is exploding. The poles are shifting. The earth is melting. The seas are roaring. The stars are falling. The winds are howling. I mean, Mike, the extreme weather conditions are outrageous.
Yes, they are. They're just beginning. They're just beginning. These what was it? Last I believe it was actually it was Friday. Some of the pop-up storms that we were having, a type of warning went out. Not to everybody, but it went out. The meteorologists are becoming quite fearful of what it could cause. Just a couple of days ago, they were talking about a derecho, and of course, the world was spared that. But if you can imagine, a derecho is more than 100 miles in length.
Yeah.
75 to 145-mile-an-hour winds. Can you imagine? And I'll stand by my comment that we're going to see storms that will cover the entirety of the U.S. Right? They're going to have to
Yes.
give another name to hurricanes. They're going to have to call them hypercanes or something. They've already done this to the typhoons. They call those slip my tongue. It's not a super typhoon. There's something above that. They already have a name for it because they know the formations of some of the typhoons are going to be larger than anything they've ever recorded. And you're talking about winds that are quickly, they're starting to double in quite a few places, right? Because with this contrast of heat and cold, you have a stronger wind potential. Isobars are called isobars. They get in between a high and a low pressure system. You're looking at a lot more pressure. So you're going to have higher winds. You're going to have surface winds that are, it's going to knock over the average structure, so to speak. It's going to cause a lot of infrastructure damage. And that's only the wind. Wind is going to be a
How
major
strong
factor.
straight line winds are you anticipating?
Well, they've already seen sustained straight line winds of 135 miles an hour. Okay, that's number one this year. So if you that's without a storm. These are normal high-low pressure system forces that act on mountains and in terrain of the earth. So with a storm, when you take the addition of pressure and you add that into the mix, you're going to increase those winds by a pretty big margin. So you're looking at winds that will get very close to, destructive, very destructive. I'd say about 185, almost 200 miles an hour.
I mean, 185 miles an hour is just. I mean, We don't know what to think about something like that. I mean,
As tornado winds, as tornado-based winds, that's a pretty powerful thing there. But if we're going to have hurricanes that will rival that, right? That could possibly go above that. We're going to see things we've not seen before, and due to a thinning of the atmosphere, which is causing many people to be exposed to more and more radiation. People are running around with radiation sickness, and they don't know why. They can't identify that it's radiation sickness, but the nausea, the joints, the bone decay in all places. All this is part of increased radiation, both from the heavens and from in the earth. The earth is pumping out more gamma rays. More and more gamma rays are coming out of the earth. It destroyed a neutrino detection facility, right? Some of the rays have. So things are becoming, they're really beginning to exponentially increase in quite a few places. And that's only the beginning. People are going to be the major problem.
Okay, so people are going to be a problem because you mean the effects on people or
Oh yeah, if you notice right now, let me make this comment. I'll say right now, people see, if you look at the news or you see the average person, Pastor, it's becoming very difficult for a person to hold back, to suppress what's actually trying to get out of them. That ability is about to go away. And when I say go away, you'll see newscasters lose it. We're talking about on the left side, you'll see them lose it. You'll see these people who love they worship Gaia. They're always talking about the environment and trees. You're going to see those people with visceral anger talk about folks who are destroying the earth. They're going to blame it on anybody they can. That will turn into just almost like a tribal violence, right? They're not going to have control to sustain themselves, to suppress those emotions. They're about to boil over. And that's somewhat of a warning, because who can contain people if they happen to go into somewhat of a mob rage? We have a lot of conditions that are going wrong in the earth. We have a lot of people making bad decisions. We have untrustworthy governments that are doing shady things. The Middle East they're coalescing into this group of power that the world has never seen, right? And people are not really paying attention to that, but countries will suffer in a matter of months because of those coalitions. I don't know why yeah, I do, but this thing is it's only beginning.
So this green religion, I call it, and I'm in my new book coming out this fall. I actually dedicated an entire chapter to this, because I think what we are finding out in our research is that it's driving people mad. You remember when we had the pandemic first hit, and if somebody sneezed, everybody turned and looked at them like, "Are you serious?"
Yep.
Well, it's going to be the same thing.
Absolutely.
The people see you if they see you eating something that has too high a carbon,
blame.
They're going to
blame
it.
They're
going to start blaming you for destroying the earth. Is that right, Mike?
Yep. That's right.
They're going to lose all rational thought.
That's right.
And they're going to justify whatever they do. They're going to justify it.
Like they do now. It's so many people out there, which is why, this situation is just like Egypt. Yeah, I mean, it is just, in Egypt, they were enslaved for 400 years. We're right here in various countries all over the world under the oppression of governments that seemingly they don't really take a strong interest in the people as the people would like them to take an interest, right? They're in total control. No matter what you believe, no matter what you say, they're still going to have their agenda go forward. I'm not fooled by sides anymore, because see, to me, it's the world and Christianity. It's the world and those who believe in Christ. And so those who believe in Christ, what rights do they have? Can they go out and have public church on the White House lawn?
No.
We're supposed to be a Christian nation.
Right.
That can't be done.
Nope.
And if they go into a city and try that, they're going to get beat up, or something's going to happen to them, right? So it's just like Egypt. It's oppression. The people are under harsh conditions. They cannot decide what they believe in. Everything they believe is being fought, right? So it's a psychological plan to remove everything that supports what they believe in.
Yep.
But it's also like Egypt in this respect. Right before Egypt was delivered, there was massive destruction in Egypt. They never rose from that destruction. But mind you, people were so fractured at that time that half the people wanted to stay in Egypt. They thought the conditions, because they were led into a place they knew nothing about.
Right.
Everybody wanted freedom, but when they began to walk, it was hard for half of them, a great number of them, to have faith in God and in Moses' direction.
They couldn't see.
A lot did follow.
Yeah, it was hard to visualize where they were going was going to be something different than what they had been accustomed to. They had been in bondage so long they were comfortable with being.
and they didn't even know it.
Yeah, they didn't know it. It's
They
like
didn't know
boiling
it.
frogs. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know it, and so that same thing is happening today. You have. I would say now you're going to see those who are of the spirit truly stand up. They're going to stand up. This boldness that you see in the world, full of violence and all this other stuff, you just watch, because the Holy Spirit always, it really pours out strong in these conditions, and we sit at the precipice of war. Great conflict, Pastor Paul. Great conflict. I don't know if you know it or not, but that I remember the dream you said you had about Russia. They went to the Middle East and they had brand new weapons, right?
Yes. Yes.
Don't be surprised to hear various stories about that, and they're not going to be just stories, all right? Because there are some severe conditions forming even right now as we speak, and so things are not as calm as they seem.
What?
They're not as calm as they seem.
So the dream I had about Russia with these new weapons of so dreadful that women were crying and men would look like the dread of death was upon them because they heard that Russia was coming out
Yeah.
and getting ready to use
Yeah.
it. Are you saying
don't-
that this is actually
It could be just like that. You know, it really caught my attention, Pastor Paul, because in 1988, I saw the Abrams tank and Humvees with lasers mounted on everything. Even the soldiers had these belts they would wear with with lasers mounted on the weapons, right? Well, guess what? All this stuff it seems like it's coming to fruition. It's happening, especially that dream you had. It coalesces right there in the Middle East, right there in the Middle East. And so, given the time that we have and what's happening, it's just like people and Christians in America they're going to have to be careful, because leadership is going to be very disappointing to them coming up. I know that people have hopes, but I'm telling you right now, they're going to maximize a blow on people's faith so bad that people are going to find themselves picking up their own faith. They're going to have to, because the world's going to fail them. All right, it will. It's just not going to pass the test that they're looking for.
Okay, now, Mike, one thing to look at here, we started to show by saying, look, governments of the world are collapsing. What I mean by that is Israel's government has collapsed. The Knesset's dissolved. They have a new guy in now. This guy only controls 5 seats of the 120-seat Knesset, and yet he's the prime minister, Yair Lapid. He's a French Jew who has no checks really and balances for the next 6 months before they can even have the election. He has the power. Even Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, he went straight to France and met with him. The first thing he did as prime minister of Israel. And they came out of the room and talking about world peace, and that Lapid has the opportunity to go ahead and put together a new Middle East peace plan, which would create a Palestinian state. I mean, This is insane. I guess the question is, we're also seeing United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson. His government collapsed on him today. He's out. And we see different nations. We've already seen the Venezuelans. We already see what goes on in Nicaragua. We already see what's going on now in Colombia. It's been overtaken by a government, a bunch of cartel leaders. So, Mike, what's going on? Is there something Heidi said this to me tonight. She said, it's like something's been released, or an order has been declared.
Given?
Yeah, is there something given? Is that happening?
Well, it's a lot of coordination going on, and you know what? When it starts coming around to places like Europe, the UK, when in fact terrorism, right, is going to rise in that area because of what's taking place in that proximity, right? It will rise. Here in America, if people stay fractured, first of all, Christians make the change. You know what? We should have been a little more disciplined to be in those positions of the people. We don't want those positions in the first place, but it's okay. We messed that up, but it's all right. Because if right now Christians would, the condition of healing of any land is based upon the populace of believers in that land. It's not based upon the people. Unfortunately, we do live in the last days. Things will happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think people believe it. There's not enough urgency in people to get their lives right? It's almost like they're doing everything they can to have an excuse to keep their lives wrong. We have that type that type mindset, unfortunately, is growing among a lot of
Would
people. That's not saying everybody's going to turn, but you have a lot of people that are just what's truly in them is no longer going to stay in them. They're going to lose their
right?
ability
They're
to
going.
suppress what's within them. They're going to lose that ability. And when that ability is lost, I mean, they're going to lose that ability. There are too many forces that will act upon the human body, in the mind,
Is that
right?
coming
So
from Planet
physical and
X?
spiritual.
Is it because of the effects of Planet X? I mean, are we getting? Is that part of this
We have
overall?
problems. We have bad problems on Mars also, right?
You
So
keep bringing
Mars
that
is going
up. I mean,
through
are you serious, Mike? You keep
Mars
bringing
is
up
going through some
Mars.
very harsh conditions. They're going through some changes. On I should say the planet is having changes, right? So things are beginning to alter there too, big
Are you
time.
saying that we should watch what's happening on Mars and without changes there because it's coming our way? Is that what you're meaning?
Well, absolutely. Those changes are universal. You could say they're happening to everything. And here's the issue: if people are not aware of their surroundings, the world's going to define their surroundings for the people. They're going to give them more propaganda, right? In fact, let me give you a scenario. If we were in the middle of war right now and somebody launched a nuclear weapon right at America, they would deny it to the last possible minute. They
Right,
would.
right.
They're not going to inform people and say, "Hey, look, you're about to get hit. Take shelter where you are."
No.
They only publicize those things they can manage and utilize. They cannot utilize absolute destruction. So people, they forget about hearing about Planet X. They can forget about the some of the new crickets that just rose over, what was it, 56 years. They came out of the ground.
What?
They can forget about, in America, the
Crickets.
nuisance of locusts that are killing crops in America right now. I mean, it's a war
Yeah, it is
against
bad.
locusts in America right now, and how that they just found they're calling it the Mormon plague. Is what they're
Yes,
calling
the
it, and
Mormon
it's starting
plague.
to spread. Right,
Yep,
so the
yep.
numbers of those locusts are doubling because they have little babies, they hatch, and poof, you have a lot more. Overseas too, they're about to have a bad problem overseas. Doppler's picking up crickets as well, or locusts as well. They're starting
Right.
to swarm, and with these hot temperatures, nobody's talking about the spider migration that's coming right here to America. When these big, huge, poisonous spiders take flight, the
Yep.
little webs go
Yep.
up in the
Yep. They
air,
can fly.
and about a couple million land right here in southern America, right? So when people walk out and they see spider webs on their front door hung up all over the place, they're not talking about
I
that
mean,
stuff. So
you're saying that these locusts, these crickets, these Mormon crickets, they call them, or that's the I mean, they must be polygamous because this thing is exponentially, man. They're growing like crazy.
yeah, they are. They are just hatching all over the place, Pastor Paul.
I mean, in reality, is you're saying that
It's
these,
getting bad though.
yeah,
Carolina's, they're losing money based on those crops. Virginia's starting to hit Virginia, and yes, it's a pretty bad thing. The spiders, I'm not looking forward to that.
no, I'm
Right?
not looking
Those are
forward to the
poisonous spiders, and
Poisonous
they're coming.
spiders. They're
They're
coming.
they're coming. They're coming.
We don't need that right now. Mike from Around the World's with us today, folks. Tonight we're having a great conversation of the coming apocalypse. And when you got flying spiders and polygamous Mormon crickets and locusts coming out of the ground after 56
Polygamous
years.
crickets.
Yeah,
Yep.
polygamous crickets. And poles are shifting. And what about CERN? I mean, Mike, July 5th, they said they cranked up both beams to full capacity, or are they in the
Yeah.
process of doing it?
Yeah.
What's going on with CERN?
Oh, they're still trying to pull out anti-quarks. So when they get the charm quark, right, they break that charm quark down. New technology will come from that charm quark. So that's what the penta and tetrad quarks. That's what they produce.
Is it
And
weaponry?
when they, huh?
Does that create new weaponry?
It'll create new science, period. I mean, science that will blow your mind, right? So, when that is understood, because these particles, they don't care about gravity, number one. That's why it's so hard to get them. The forces that are keeping the relationship of these bonds together is stronger than all the forces combined in our entire solar system that we know about. Right. So how can something so tiny be held together by a force that nothing can crack? I mean, nothing can crack. So what they had to do was build a collider where they could cause a chain reaction. That's the only way they can break them apart temporarily, is by chain reaction, right? To measure the forces that it would
Yep.
take, because they can, at such a small scale, they can multiply the forces by, factor of 1 billion. because they're working at such a small scale. But they're getting these numbers back based upon the forces it took to break these things down, and it is enormous. Whatever they can break down and study and analyze, they can reproduce, they can recreate, and then that yields some of the most powerful weapons or fuel or power supplies anybody has ever seen. For example, an anti-quark, right, can produce enough power in about a cup of coffee to power the U.S. for hundreds of years. That's how much of a force it will always have. And it's tied to other anti-quarks, which do the same thing. Now, my issue is this. Where they're pulling this stuff from, all right, from dark matter. People call it dark matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have our realm, which is perfectly in balance with the other realm. If you take things out of one realm, you're going to cause things to be out of balance. It's going to cost something in this realm. It always works this way. In quantum physics, they have seen this over and over and over again. In the 50s, they began to collect anti-electrons, right? Just to give an example. So antimatter has been around for a long time, right? You just can't, couldn't accumulate, but about that every time they pull matter or harness energy, because the truth is, from a 1 inch by 1 inch square of that dark matter, they could power the world for a little bit, right?
What?
That's how powerful it is. That's why quantum computers, they in theoretically, they're actually working, but theoretically, it can give you an answer before you're finished asking it something. Okay, it can give you, if you want piece of information, it can run every possible scenario in less time than it takes for you to blink your eye or one of your neurons to fire, and can yield the answer. So quantum computer breaks down the feedback because it's so fast and so abundant. They needed a computer that could actually read the qubits that were coming back from all this information. It sounds weird, right? Because number one, why in the world would they do that? We can only think so fast, right? We can only handle so many processes. It would almost be like having a 20K television, right? We can't
Right.
see 20K.
No.
We're not going to observe that. So what are the rest of the lines of resolution going to be used for in truth, right? And by the way, optical speech is a real thing. You know that, don't you? It's called optical speech. I'm sure that Heidi will remember
Heidi,
that
have you
term.
heard of that? Optical speech?
It'll become quite popular. It's almost like magic, but it's pure science. It's
Okay,
just
it's
something
just
the brain is able to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
something the brain is able to do. Right? Boxers have that. They have hypermindedness, which means you have an ability to think faster
Oh,
than anything that moves around you.
okay. That's like
Right?
time dilation.
Yeah, just like that. Just
Okay,
like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
in this case, it's by way of interpretation to analyze and everything else, which means in 1 second, you can spend 15 minutes in 1 second, and you can analyze things about 15 minutes per second. So that's real. They do communication that way, and your brain is able to establish that, and you can bring it about subconsciously and then utilize it. So they're coming out with some pretty bad biological tricks, which,
Wow.
by the way, they're harnessing seemingly all at one time. Artificial intelligence, the new base of quantum computing, some of the new findings at CERN, all of these are going to go hand in hand, right? Some of the threats in the world, they're going to cause people, once again, people are going to call on their governments to help protect them from wild people, is what they're going to do. They're going to say, hey, put me in this area. I want to go in region 2. I want to go in region 3. I don't fit in this region. Give me over here. And so when they break down what democracy used to be, when they finish killing off that system, the B system will be here. And the B system does not really have to be built. The old system, the remnants of the old system, simply have to be removed. That's it. They already have the basis for the new system set up. And past Paul, they've gone a lot further than anybody would know.
Yeah, people are concerned that maybe CERN is also that. I mean, like you said, they're doing a lot of different types of experiments in different fields
Yeah, they do.
at once. Some people keep
Metaphysical
bringing up,
also.
yeah, the spiritual side of it. I mean, trying to metaphysical, and in other words, trying to pierce the veil, trying to open the portals of another dimension or even hell itself. What's your thoughts on that?
Here's the thing. Until God allows that angel with the key to the bottomless pit,
Yep.
right,
Yep.
to open up the pit. Apollyon and all his minions are going to be stuck in that
Right.
pit.
And they've
And the
been there this
Bible
whole time.
says, yeah, when the Bible says when he opens up that pit anyway, they're commanded not to touch any green thing,
That's right.
any tree, or anybody with the seal of God in the forehead.
That's
So
right.
having a fear of what man can do is not, it's never been my issue. My issue has been when men find themselves in a fearful moment, they end up going against all things of faith. They get desperate.
You
God
know,
is
the
not,
point
they
that
think
you
God
just
won't act fast enough.
Yeah, the point you just brought up about that God's the one that sends the angel down with the key to the bottomless pit and allows it to open, and then Apollyon and all of his demonic minions are released. But they can't
right.
touch the trees, the grass, or any green thing.
Yeah.
Neither can they touch those who have the seal of God in their forehead. So the church doesn't need to be scared of this
That's right.
event that's coming upon the planet. The world is the one that needs to be
That's right.
warned of the manifestation. It's going to affect their minds. It's going to drive some of them insane, and they're also going to think of a lot of evil thoughts and evil deeds. Don't you think, Mike?
They're going to wish they were dead. Mankind is not
Wow.
aware of what exists on this earth. But Pastor Paul, let me add something to that. Because they can't touch any green thing, right?
Right.
Any tree, no grass, no anything like that. Not the people with the seal of God in the foreheads. I'm going to summarize that in a very simple statement. They cannot touch the living. They can only touch the dead. And God is a God of the living and not the dead. So
Amen.
anybody who truly belongs to God, they need not worry about that. What
No.
God unleashes is not against the righteous. It's not against those who are living. It's against the dead. The dead. When Jesus said, let the dead go bury the dead, he was talking about those who did not have faith. Right. So if we have faith in Christ, we're good to go. We're going to be
That's right.
observers of quite a few things. But it makes our job ever so important. We have a task because the world's not going to change itself. We've seen a good example of what happens to the world without faith. And it's getting worse. The only reason they haven't self-destructed is because of moral people with spiritual convictions by the Holy Spirit. They're called Christians, and they actually
Amen.
exist in some of these places. Without us, it is absolute destruction. It'll happen in a heartbeat without us.
Amen. Mike, also, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here with the, we've talked about the storm, we've talked about, but we got to talk about the food shortages and the fact that these farmers, now the farmers, the Danish farmers, have been told that they have to follow these 2030 agenda, United Nations global sustainability emissions regulations, which is going to, they're saying it's impossible. We can't grow food. We won't make it. It will actually cost 70% of all livestock to not exist. Mike, what in the world?
The numbers aren't working out. They're really, the numbers are not working out. It is, it's a very sad thing. The numbers are not working out. And so, but these folks, right? Some of these folks are not very sincere. They have an agenda, right? They have an agenda.
Yeah.
Some of these folks are not sincere, but for the most part, the numbers, some of these farmers are suffering. They're
Yes.
suffering badly. Why are they suffering? Because their supplies that have nothing to do with the food chain has been cut off, like grain. They can't
Right.
get certain chemicals for their, how in the world does a chemical, how do you have a chemical shortage of a chemical that's all over the place? Nitrites are all over the place. How do you have a shortage in that? Right?
Exactly.
But they're stopping the flow of quite a few things. And while everybody's looking in one direction, they're cutting off the roots of how people actually survive and how the system works. It's almost like just a right out sabotage is happening here. And they're just factories are blowing up. Is that coincidence? You know, these important factories up.
Right.
A lot of losses, a lot of crashes. Train crashes and everything
Plane
else
crashes.
containing the very product these farmers need to continue feeding their cows and taking care of dairy.
Yep.
Now that's hard work,
Yep.
but they don't have the supplies. And when they start to figure all that stuff in, because some of the grass have been cut in half, right?
Yep.
There's certain mandates in place. Now they cannot use nitrites in certain areas.
Right.
They have to use it and take a penalty for the carbon emitted
Yes.
by the process of raising. You raise a plant these days, you have to pay tax on the carbon it will produce. How stupid is that?
It's stupid.
Right?
Well, what
Isn't
they're
that
doing
dumb?
is,
But that's the worship well, my opinion,
The green worship. The
the
green.
the Antichrist.
Yeah.
You said it, because the Antichrist worships a God his fathers knew not, the God of forces,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The God of forces has to do with Gaia,
It's again,
all
you're
this
going there
nature
again.
nonsense.
Yes, it's nonsense. It's worshiping a pagan god. It's worshiping a god. It's superstition. Remember when Paul showed up at Mars Hill, and he said, "Men and brethren, let me just say something to you guys right now. I find that you're so superstitious. You guys worship an unknown god.
Yep.
You don't even know what you're
Yeah.
doing." And
Yeah.
it's starting to seem like some of these politicians and these world leaders in the World Economic Forum and some of these guys, Bilderberg and these guys are getting together and they're coming out with some of these idiotic things that don't even make sense. It's like it's stupidity at the highest intellectual levels. How can this be, Mike? Is it a spirit?
Pastor, do you remember that time when I was begging people to be careful because they're going to start showing that paranormal stuff on television, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
On
I
every
remember that.
channel.
Yep.
Okay, here's what's happened. People have looked at these paranormal shows. They're convinced that the spiritual realm is not quite what the Christians said it was, because they are believers. People, because it weakened their faith. Now people print things on YouTube, the internet and everywhere, and people are so gullible these days. And what they did with these paranormal shows is they opened people's minds to the point where they'll listen to anything and absolutely accept anything. You know what? I could go right now. We could make up a rumor, right?
Yeah.
And then come back 5 minutes after we make up the rumor and say it's not true. We're just joking. Somebody is going to grab hold of it and start a movement based on a rumor, and then people are going to back it with science and everything else. A big, just nothing. This is the way the world is.
Right.
This is the way the world is, without having any concrete anything. They go forward with an agenda. They don't care what anybody says. They don't care if somebody comes back and says, it was all made up. They don't care. By then it has motion. All of this is what? All of this is rebellion coming out.
Yes.
People cannot hide their own rebellion. They're
Amen.
not submissive. They want to be in charge. Like road rage. They did a small study on road rage. People are dying by the thousands by road rage. Just
Yeah.
road rage. It's very dangerous. And so you have this, multiply that times a factor of 20,000. And that's how, next month could potentially look, because it's actually increasing
Is it
at
kind
a
of
scary
the
rate.
strong delusion that the Bible talks
It's
about?
absolutely part of that strong delusion.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about a delusion is that people cannot see a delusion. You can tell a delusional person, hey, that's not real. They'll say, yes, it is. You're not real. You don't know what you're talking about, because it's their world they accept. And so you can't, in the Bible, doesn't it say God will send them a strong delusion? So they
Yes.
won't escape it. They're not going to escape.
He said
All
he would
those who
send
did
them a
not love the truth.
strong
Yep.
delusion that they would believe a lie and they'd all be damned who believe not in the truth. And so
Yep.
their minds are, this strong delusion is because they're rebellion, the spirit of witchcraft, the spirit of rebellion, and has created this spirit of foolishness.
Yes, it has.
I mean,
Yes,
I
it
hate to
has.
say it.
It is. It's foolishness.
It really
Well,
is.
God called it. He said. God said you can't argue with a fool,
No,
right?
you
He's going to
can't.
win. He's going to be right in his own mind every
Yeah.
single time. So,
What about the
but
Georgia
that's the way
Guidestones?
people.
The Georgia Guidestones, Mike. What in the
Now
world?
that's funny. I have to admit, when when that came around, right?
Yeah.
My ribs hurt. It was so funny. It was funny because I said, now people are going to see how many people, because he's upset people worshipped the Guidestones. They believed
Yeah,
in
they
them. They
did. They
supported
did.
them. They that was their Guidestones. And when it all fell apart, right, that was just absolutely funny. Now, as to its cause, people can argue because it's it's speculation. I
Right.
wasn't there. I didn't see anything happen. I didn't see whatever happened
Right,
to it. The fact is, they're gone. They're gone.
Thank
They're
God they're
gone.
gone.
That's right. They're gone. And so because it was standing up for so long. Here's what it really tells me. It tells me that there's a set of folks out there, right, who are saying enough is enough. Now,
Wow.
I can't criticize those people, but somebody out there was praying. Somebody out there was consistent. Somebody out there is against this, this big river of this new age stuff. They're swimming against the current, and they still have morals. But they're not going to see their brother go down in some, foolishness. This new world nonsense. Of course, the beast system is coming, and that's their system. I'd walk in the middle of that too and call it nonsense. But these are the times we live in. But I think it's significant. I really do. I think it's significant because at the same time the Guidestones were destroyed, and trust me, in my mind, I don't really look at how things happen. I look at the timing. The timing to me is everything. If something like that takes place, and then you have Putin having a battle cry at the same time, and then you have the Jews being tossed out of several different nations,
What's that
right? And
about?
they're trying to do this under the rug.
Why are the Jews
They're doing
being?
this under the rug.
Yeah, they're doing this under the guise of.
That's a spiritual hatred, just like Hitler. It's just like a person who hates a rat, right?
Yeah.
They hate a rat. It's just that you could take a person who has never seen a rat before and they're repulsed by it. A lot of people are repulsed by serpents. It's an inbred natural hatred certain people have of the Jews. It's a demonic, devilish, false hatred that these
Amen.
people have in them, right?
Amen.
Is exactly what it is. They can't even explain to you why they hate them so much, but they hate them. And so this hate is rising up everywhere it
It
exists.
is.
And here's the bad part, though. As the hate rises, it's being accepted.
Yeah.
Because who's standing against? No one is
Nobody's
standing
stand up
against
against
it.
it.
They're not.
No.
It's almost like they just, they're complicit with this. How can they be complicit with that? A
Well,
Christian
it's the
whose
spirit of the
basis,
Antichrist. I think it's the spirit of the Antichrist operating in these, in the high
You
levels
bet.
of the United Nations and all these
You bet.
world economic forums and all these global
like tentacles.
like tentacles.
really
Yeah,
is
they're
like
just,
tentacles.
they're
Yep.
everywhere and they're growing like a cancer. And
we're
and
birds.
it's anti-Semitic because it's and it's also anti-Christian, anti-Jew,
is.
anti-Jerusalem, anti-American, anti-conservative Christian, anti-freedom.
is.
I mean,
is.
this thing is on. Has somebody flipped a switch? Has somebody said it's time to turn up the heat? We're going into this 7 years left before the 2030 agenda. Mike, has somebody flipped the switch?
Evil is rising. You know what, Pastor Paul, what was it about? Was it 3 years ago? Actually, the beginning of this pandemic, right? I couldn't help but to be overtaken by seeing a lot of elders pass. They were passing.
Yes.
Like a whole generation
Yes.
was taken off the face of the earth because God said they're not to witness what comes next. That's
Yeah,
what it seemed
that
like
is
to me.
true. It seemed that
And
way.
so I started, I don't know, it was kind of in me. I have foot and mouth disease, right? I always put my foot in my mouth, but it comes out like that, right?
Okay.
And so there are several things that I'm seeing happening. The people against government, right? The crowds that I've witnessed, that was shown to me, the people that could not be consoled as they saw somebody
Yep.
being escorted down the stone steps. That moment is so close. It's so close. And the world does not go back to normal after that. That time is close. The coffin,
Somebody being
that time is very
the coffin
close.
is closed.
I can't look. I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but I cannot help but to remember what the Lord showed me. It's plagued me. I'll go ahead and say it's a plague. It's like a plague. It's plagued me all my life. Right. Every time I think it's going to go away, something happens, and I can't. I just can't be normal
Well, you're
because it
sort of
always.
you're sort of like Daniel. Daniel was given revelation knowledge, and it said he was sick many days. It made him sick. He was shown the end times and what was going to happen in these days, and it made him ill. And then he finally had to get up and go about the king's business. But
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's
It
kind of like
is.
that. isn't it?
It's like that.
Yeah.
It's like that. Daniel was a better upstanding person than I was, but yeah, it's kind of like that because you see, you don't want it to take place. You don't want
No.
people to go that route, right? Because
No.
violence, Pastor Paul, violence. I'll tell you, the number one enemy of mankind not only is going to be weather, but it will be their neighbor. Society, as we know, will begin to break down in places we never thought it would. And people, Christians, have to be ready to witness this, knowing that they have no ability to halt what's happening. Because take this, for example, if one of your loved ones, if they refuse, if no one is witnessing to them, if we're not examples to them, how are they going to know the Messiah? They're not picking up their Bibles. And sometimes, we're in an ambassadorship and we're the closest to Christianity or Christ somebody will ever see. But imagine a time when these people choose something else, but you love them and they're walking away and there's nothing you can do about it. Just imagine that time. We have to be, that's going to require a lot of sobriety. I believe right now with all these events, the Lord is he's not only is he exposing the truth of things, right? So
Right.
that no evil is hidden, but he's also waking us up, saying, the world is not what you
We have
thought it was.
we have breaking news that might be going right along with what you're saying. Former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot in the chest this morning, just happened during a speech in the city of Nara. He has collapsed. He has been taken to the hospital. His condition as of this hour is still unclear, and the Japanese news agency is reporting that the shooter has been arrested. So we have breaking news, folks, for you. Thank you, Israel, for getting this for us.
That is
This is
that's very sad.
it's very
But
sad.
you see who the assailants are. People.
Yeah,
People.
it's just what you were saying. People are going to be doing things that are
Yes.
so outside the norm. I mean,
Yes.
gun violence in Japan is not, hardly even exist, okay? To assassinate the former prime minister of Japan, and remember, he was very stern against China. He was a very
Yeah.
close friend of President Trump. So was Boris
Yeah.
Johnson. So was
Yep.
Benjamin Netanyahu. We're watching a collapse of governments, and this is quite unbelievable that we would have this assassination attempt, and maybe has even happened, the shooting of a former prime minister of Japan. Mike, it's like a switch has been flipped, and it's not just like you said. It's not just the effects of Planet X. That's part of it, though, because Jesus said you're going to see people like they're going to be at each other's throat. They're going to hate one another. They're going to despise one another. They're going to tell on each other. They're going to do all kinds of things. And also the sea and the waves are going to be roaring, and there's going to be earthquakes and these crazy volcanic eruptions and all these. So it's like it's a simultaneous thing. The weather and the mentality of human race is raging toward a climax of the apocalypse, of the coming of Jesus Christ. Is this true?
It is. And if they're falling apart at the seams without seeing the supernatural things, the external things, for example, what if, I'm going to give you a scenario. So what if humanity finds out there has been life in the seas, in the oceans for a long time? We're not talking about whales and stuff. We're talking about an ancient people who lived in the oceans,
What?
right? Observers. What do you think is going to happen to people if they found out they had high sources of technology, but they lived in the oceans? They've been there this whole time, right? They have been more like influencers than anything else. What do you think people would do, right? They would be scared out of their minds.
Well, yeah.
Is what would happen.
Well, yeah.
For example, I'll give you one point case. There are a lot of people through these paranormal shows, and they're not publishing this. They're killing themselves because of these shows, because for some reason they'll have a night terror after watching one of these shows or something.
Yeah.
It'll overtake them, and they cannot deal with that, the spiritual realm being real. Now they're talking about releasing UFO information at a time when people are extremely volatile, right? They're losing in life. When a person loses in life, the last thing they want is to be introduced to an uncontrollable element. Right? You don't want that, you don't want that in a person's life because they're fragile. Well, this
Right.
fragility is going to be seen all over the earth, all over the planet, because it's unavoidable. These next steps are unavoidable. Mankind is on somewhat of somebody else's time. Let's put it that way. Somebody else's time, evil's time, because that door I keep talking about, they will be ready. They've been told to be ready, to prepare. They have things to prepare for, and things are going to go exactly how they set things up to go. And nobody has power. Who has power to stop them except the Father? But he already declared that a beast kingdom would be set up. We don't know the absolute timing, but everything looks like everything is pointing in this direction. And this coalition in the Middle East, Pastor Paul, that everybody's clapping about, they're clapping at something that is bad.
I know.
They're calling good evil and evil good. They can't even see what's about to take place. And you even have some of the people who are from all different type nations and everywhere else are starting to, they don't understand that they're empowering an animal that will absolutely devour them from the inside out. But it's already begun, because there are nations over there right now. A brand new kingdom is being discussed. Let's just say the broadening of an unstoppable way of life is about to take root. And when it takes root, nobody on earth, right? You better believe it's coordination. For example, if Russia has, if they have a weapon that can absolutely do damage, China, North Korea, right? They're going to
Yes.
have to prepare. They're
Yes.
going to be warned to prepare because they're allies. Iran is going to be told to stay in place and prepare. All the allies of Russia, right? They're going to be told to prepare before this weapon is unleashed, right? We're not talking about common day physics. We're talking about things that were developed a while ago that no one had. There are chain reactions you can start that no technology can stop
Mm.
unless you have worked with that stuff for a long time.
Is
And the rest
that
of the world does not have. Somebody asked me, somebody posed a good question. They said, well, don't we have things that are hidden too, that are twice as, just as dangerous, just as
yeah?
powerful? I said, well, sure, but if a fire begins, it does not matter how much water you have. Somebody's going to get burnt, right? And so this is the issue we face. There's a new type physics out there that will be exposed because of it, because these are I guess you could call them impossible weapons, right? Impossible weapons. But they're not like, there are things out there much worse than a nuclear weapon, much worse, much
You know, and
worse.
I don't think
So
and we hear that, and the public, the world is really not aware of what that is. And if they knew, I think men's hearts would fail them, and they would people would be falling dead if they just knew the potential devastation that's available, and can be used upon humanity. We're in a dangerous time. You know, the Bible calls it perilous times,
yeah,
dangerous
yeah,
times would come in the last days, and we're here there now. We are there. It has gotten this bad, and it's not going to get better. The thing is, it's just not going to get better, is it, Mike?
no, it's like a rotten tree with rotten roots. The tree looks okay for a while, but then you begin to see decay and everything else, and it's the situation we face. It is escalating, and I'm sure that people can feel that spiritual tension. It's almost like a something is speaking to people, telling them, take it easy, it'll be okay. Don't pray. Bring up a point. There are a lot of Christians who seemingly are not interested in the New Testament, and they're not interested in prayer. How can that be? How is
I
that even
I
possible?
don't know. I
How's
really
that
don't
possible?
know. I
So
mean, we is part with Christ. I mean, you just have to walk in the prayer, walk in the Spirit. We live through our faith through Jesus Christ. We have to communicate with God. God communicates with us. Why would you not be interested in prayer? I just don't. I'm not getting it, Mike.
I hope people are aware that everything that's happening is against all those who believe, and our Father's for all those who believe, and He gave us power to overcome this, Pastor Paul.
Yes.
But the number of us, from what is happening, they've got to stop believing the world.
Yes.
The Bible says the world does not have the truth, and they cannot have the truth, right?
No.
So, but they keep going to the world for their answers, and that's a problem, because then that's what really causes the arguments in the church. If you look at an argument of anything in the church, it's because somebody believes the world
Yeah.
over the Lord. And there are folks like yourself who get revelation. There are a lot of folks, Pastor Paul, who have heard you. They know scientists. They know some of the top scientists. And I'm telling you right now, they would disregard those guys to get some spiritual knowledge and a heartbeat, because science only proves what already exists. Spiritual knowledge, right?
Right.
That teaches you things that you would have no comprehension about in any other way. So they're not interested in seeing how something is working that they've already seen all their lives, and how a light switch goes up and down. That's not what they want to see. What they want to know, they have questions, they have intuitions, and a lot of those scientists, believe it or not, a lot of those scientists, they have conviction now. They did what they did for position, for money, to kind of exercise their desires. But even they know, they said, no, there's got to be a creator. And I'm getting tired of this. And so a lot of scientists are starting to migrate out of the world into Christianity, because they know there's a God. They want to get to know Him before it's too late. And that is, I suspect that many more people are going to start hearing of this. You know, because they know the scientific realm, but they also know based on evidence that there's no way in the world evolution was ever a possibility. They know that things were created because they have the exact same pattern. And how can an element on one side of the earth mirror another element on the other side, right? With
Right.
nothing attached to it, no radios, no anything else. They've done all the experiments. They see this. They know there's a creator. And now many people are starting to fear because they see the times coming on, right?
Amen.
They have teams that study prophecy. They see what's happening. They know it's unstoppable. They have seen plans nobody else is privy to. And to be frank with you, they're becoming frightened of the
Yes.
future,
Yes,
right?
they
And
are.
they want some stability. Right.
Yes.
These guys are having nightmares about what they know, and they want some stability. So they're being called too into the fold quickly. But I hope that Christians can stand their ground on their faith and never compromise with the world, because
Amen.
these are days when people will, they're going to need somebody who believes. But it's only the beginning. It's only the beginning.
Mike, this broadcast has been so enlightening, and I thought about this when you started talking about the effects on the mind that the green religion would bring, the effects on the mind, that the pressure from Planet X, and how that our magnetosphere is breaking down, how we are so close to a pole shift, and the poles flipping, how that the straight line winds are going to be as before the year is over. Already had winds of 135 miles an hour. Probably going to have winds as high as 185, maybe even 200 miles an hour. How that we've talked about the food chain, the food shortages, the supply chain, and now there's wanting to shut down in California. It literally would cause 70,000 truck drivers, independent truck drivers, if they pass this new law in California, will not be able to get a license really to drive their trucks because of carbon taxes, or because they're not part of a conglomerate trucking industries. Can you imagine 70,000 independent truck drivers have to park their rigs and can't haul food and the vegetables and fruit and everything out of California, plus all the containers that are stacking up on the docks? You still don't have enough truck drivers the way it is. Mike, what is going on here? Is this a deliberate plan to destroy, to create world chaos to the point that the world will cry for a new order, for a new world leader? Are we on the brink of the beast? Are we on the edge of eternity? Is this the apocalyptic hour of the Antichrist?
Well, Pastor Paul, it looks just like, they have destroyed the family unit
Yes.
to a degree, and
Yeah.
they're dissolving all the foundations that a family could stand on. They're causing fear. They're causing distorted mindsets, immorality. They're promoting all these things that we see spreading. They're promoting it. They won't stop promoting it. The Actors Guild right now supporting ghosts and goblins, right? They have a mandate to do that. And so what we see is a wicked spirit that's risen in the earth, and it truly is taking hold of just about every single industry, is what we see. And it's not going to stop until they accomplish what and Satan rage he has to be. But we see the degradation of the family unit. We see people who are, if they stop those truckers, that's going to cause great desperation.
Oh, yeah.
And what will a man do to feed his family? A man will do anything to feed his family.
Exactly.
And so they're going to cause that mentality to come out, knowing that the magnetic properties of the earth are changing, knowing that if that changes, if the magnetosphere changes and the ozone continues to do what it's doing, it's going to cause great stress on how the neurons fire, how the frontal lobe operates, the balance between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, right? It's going to cause memory issues. It's going to cause fits of rage that people never felt coming before, because without the temperament of the chemical release of that frontal lobe, there is no check
No
system
filter, no check
for
and balance.
emotions. And it's going to come out. It's going to be like people are bipolar in the worst way, right?
Right.
More and more people are going to be that way. Now, the person won't, they probably won't perceive it, but you're talking about violence at a brand new level. And we're already seeing that numbers with against police officers right now, against each other on the highways. If you cut somebody off, be ready to defend yourself for a long time. You know, people are following. How can you follow one guy from one state to another just to run him over? This is happening more and more. This is the
It's
rage built up. And the world, by the way, is the one promoting this rage. Everything they do promotes wickedness.
yes, they
If,
do.
if you look carefully, they're promoting, they're advertising wickedness, immorality. And as for me, I won't believe anything in the world. And marketing in the world is just like witchcraft. They're doing everything they can do, just like the Bible says, Pastor Paul. Satan is, he knows he's on death row.
Yes.
He knows he's on death row, and he's trying to get every Christian he can to turn against the Father, to drop their faith, to disheart, to have people downcast in countenance, so they won't believe, so they won't have strength when that time of deliverance comes. My advice to people is to stay on the cornerstone, stay on it
Oh,
for your,
praise
stay
God.
on it for your brother. You know,
Amen.
there's about strength. I have never been strong enough to save myself, but I can muster strength anywhere to save someone else. I can do that. I can do anything for somebody else. So I advise people, to those people they love, look at them. And that's what you exist for, to feed them, to protect them, to take care of them, to make sure they know Christ, and do everything you can to make that happen. And then you'll find that your life will be richer than you ever thought possible.
Folks, Mike Around the World tonight, really touching all the bases of everything that's really happening right now. This is what we wanted to do, Mike. We wanted to find out what's going on, get some inside info on this, and understand it. It is all part of the prophecy of the last days. And the information, literally the Bible prophecy is jumping off the pages and the headlines today. And it's not, and so you need to believe us. When we tell you Jesus is coming, we tell you you better get ready. We tell you you need to be saved. We're serious about it. And we're also warning you that tough times and strange things are going to come upon the earth. But I love the one thing you said, you know, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. And I love the fact that you said these words, that even if Apollyon himself and every demon in the abyss of hell come out, they can't touch those that have the seal of God in their forehead, and basically that have been born again. That is a huge statement. I'm going to stand on that one. We're going to need to. And
Amen.
Mike, we'll need you to come back next week. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, look how much is changing within one week, from 1 week to the next. Look at the changes in the last
Well,
days.
I can almost guarantee you we're going to be talking about leadership this week
Leadership.
coming up. Yeah, we'll
Next
be talking
Thursday.
about leadership.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Okay. We look forward to it. God bless you, Mike. Thank you for being with us tonight.
It's always an honor, Pastor Paul. God bless you.
Amen. Folks, Mike Around the World with us tonight. I tell you, you can't make this. You just can't make this stuff up. He was pretty happy about the Georgia Guidestones being blown up, but other than that, most of what's going on in the world is pure evil and pure wickedness. I want to get a song right now. I want you to think about giving your life to Jesus Christ. I don't know if I just seen that our brand new CD, Harmonize and Prophesy, is on the website. You can actually get your pre-orders in tonight. You can start ordering tonight. Also, Heidi, I don't think I can say anything about Israel, can I? Not yet, or can I? Can I say anything about Israel tonight? About Israel, the trip? Not yet. Tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. I'll tell you tomorrow. But what I can say is that the Harmonize and Prophesy CD is ready, and it's on the website if you want to get those. Matter of fact, let's just play a song from it. We hope to. Unless.
On that computer.
Oh, it's on this computer?
Actually, no, I got it on here.
Izzy will get it. I want you to do something. I want you to ask yourself, what are you going to do when the world, when Russia pulls out whatever this dreadful weapon is that Mike said they're about ready to bring out? When the world order is falling apart, when alliances, deadly alliances and dreadful alliances and unholy alliances are being formed, what I call the vortex of evil, when people's hearts are turned cold, because the love of many will wax cold because iniquity abounds. How are we going to get any further? How are we going to get past all this? What are you going to do if Christ isn't in your life? I'm going to give you a chance. I want you to start typing right now. We'll get a song for you in a moment. It's a moment of, this will be the, what, Heidi? Tell me.
The webinar.
Oh yeah, the webinar. Yes, I'll talk about the webinar. It's coming up. Heidi, actually, it's August 26th. Yeah. Aliens and fallen angels. We have got to come to the realization. We've got to come to the point that we're running out of time, and Jesus is coming soon. If you want to be saved, you type in the chat room right now, I want to be saved. The moderators are here to help us. We're going to gather the names. I'm going to pray with every person that wants to give their life to Jesus Christ and call upon the name of the Lord. Because, listen, the Bible says everybody talks to God. The Bible tells us that whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And you're going to get your opportunity if you call on the Lord. But do it now. We're running out of time. He was saying grace over a Tuesday blue plate special when the man in the next booth said, don't you watch TV? Don't you know that God's a myth? I hate to see you waste your breath. There ain't no use in you talking to a ghost that don't exist. The praying man said amen and looked up from his plate and said, you may not talk to God right now, but there's gonna come a day. If you're a farmer in the field, praying for I see you, Brian,
rain,
Greg, and
or you
Denise,
curse him at the
Logan, all
gravesite,
wanting to be saved.
'cause he called a loved one's name. You can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him. Whether you believe in him or not. In the end, everybody talks to God. The man in the booth went quiet, 'cause he didn't have a comeback. So he shrugged it off and he paid his tab. He shuffled out the door. And the praying man, he prayed for the man who drove away, hoping he would see the light before it got too late. But how was he to know he touched an unbeliever's soul? Who got that conversation 2 red lights down the road? If you're a farmer in the field,
Think about it.
praying for the rain, or you curse him at the gravesite, 'cause he called a loved one's name. You can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him. Whether you believe in him or not. In the end, everybody talks to God. Everybody talks to God. You can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him. Whether you believe in him or not. 'Cause in the end, everybody talks to God. Everybody talks to God. We all talk to God.
so important, folks. It's so important. We're going to play another song right now from off this new album, Harmonize and Prophesy. This one is a song that was written by Kevin Wilson. And actually, he and I do a duet on this song. And if you want to be saved, you will go from the person you are now to a new person. Listen, everybody's going to talk to God. But you want to do it on your terms because you're coming to Jesus Christ. Type. A bunch of people are getting saved right now. Keep typing, I want to be saved.
I remember the night I first gave my life to Jesus. I was lost and all alone and so undone. There were pieces of me here, pieces of me there, and I was so broken. Then I asked Jesus, can you put me back together again? And I know where I was then, I know where I am now. You came to me and you saved me and turned my life around. And I know where I was then, Lord, and I know where I am now.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
You know, this walk in life, it's full of many decisions. And we live with each and every one we make.
Then you can